rocks in the pool. That is not cool. I need the tools. Take me to school. Feet first into this league. Me first. That cannot be. Under the underdog, Monica G. Feeling a whole lot better suddenly. I get in with it. Winning again. You're 1 and 2 in the bag, and I'm going for 3. That is the beat down. God of the best, so I keep. Now y'all treading water for weeks. Now I'm the shark, so I eat. Now look, I am not sorry. I understood the pump from which I started, and navigating these drafts is cathartic. So thanks for the invite to party. Yeah, Dynasty underdog bite down, up at the day and the night. Now easy as flying a kite. Now come take a look at it right now. Dynasty underdog bite down, up at the day and the night. Now easy as flying a kite. Now come take a look at it right now.
Hey everyone, welcome to episode 161 of Dynasty Underdog. I'm your host, Uriah Dawkins. Show with me tonight, Billy Beeman. What's up?
Not much, man. So first day, couple days where I haven't had a draft going on my phone, whether it was like best ball or otherwise, because I've been in like a slow draft or then the redrafts kicked in or a rookie draft, and this is like I'm like I don't know what to do with myself. I got the jitters. I'm like, where's the draft? So no, I'm stoked for some real football tomorrow night. Getting it going with KC and Detroit. I'm excited.
Me too. Unfortunately, one of the biggest stars that would normally be playing on Thursday night, Travis Kelce, has a knee injury?
Bruised knee. He hyperextended his knee, and I guess it caused a bone bruise. So that's what he's dealing with.
Apparently, his brother Jason was saying like he might be able to play, but they ruled him out, right? They ruled him out already. So
yeah, that was some propaganda if I ever heard any. Yeah. If you want to listen into some bullshit, you can go listen to that. But I'd imagine that they don't risk their best offensive weapon outside of their quarterback, obviously. For the first game of the season against the Detroit Lions. So I'm gonna imagine he sits. Not great, 33 going on 34 years old. You don't love to see an injury like this, but honestly, it's probably going to be fine as long as he didn't mess with any of the ligaments. So for the season long, it's whatever. It might be an opportunity for contenders to swoop in and get the Travis Kelce for just below market price or whatever. You know what I mean? The tight end 1, tight end 2 this year. And I think there might be some opportunity there with some people who are just like, look, man, this guy's so old and my roster's not winning. Like, I got to get out on him.
Yeah. Try to locate the manager who has Cooper Kupp, Jonathan Taylor, and Travis Kelce on their team. go ask that guy.
It's amazing. We're in sorry to cut you off. I'm in a league with somebody who has Travis Kelce and Cooper Kupp, who is talking an immense amount of trash 2 weeks ago about how his team was going to go back-to-back championships on everybody, and then somebody
you sure about that?
It was real quiet for a while in the chat, and then somebody comes in there today and they were like, man, all that stuff you were talking about doesn't look so great today, does it?
Hey, that's an important lesson. You can't be victory lapping before a fucking game's been started, you know? That's way too early.
We talk about this all the time, and in the offseason, it's hard to kind of see it, but a roster that looks like it can win or vice versa, it can change really fast. So you kind of do want to try to wade your way through the waters in a direction, but get to the regular season to see where everything's at before you kind of absolutely slam on the gas one way or another, because you might have more than you thought you did or less than you thought you did, depending on what it is. Obviously I'm not saying don't make moves, but you want to definitely try to gauge that. There's a balance.
For sure. Sticking with the injury news, Cooper Kupp, he has the hammy, and he went and saw what they call it, like a body specialist in Minnesota. This whole injury is just like, there's not a lot of information about it, right? There's not like, he's got a hammy, but like it sounds worse than it is, and they don't really let a whole lot out. So there's not like a whole lot of, there's not like a video of like it happening. So there's not a lot of doctors weighing in on it, and just kind of like up there, like, I don't know if he'll be ready week 2. I don't know if he'll be ready week 3. I know he's not on PUP. He's not on IR. So I guess that's good. But still, if you're taking Cooper Kupp in the second and you took Kelce in the first, or any of these high draft picks, like, this sucks.
Yeah. Yeah, it's brutal. I mean, the Cup injury is definitely brutal considering what you're expecting out of him this year. Yeah, it from a dynasty perspective, it's tough. Another 30-year-old situation was definitely ballooned a bit by having Matt Stafford, a really good quarterback who could support kind of what he does so well in the field, and you just wonder how much longer that's going to last and where he ends up and what he ends up with at quarterback, wherever that is, whether that's with the Rams or not. So that's kind of where my mind goes with Cooper Kupp. From a dynasty perspective, I'm definitely concerned. It sucks. I spent a 24 first for him in one league where I'm pretty well stacked. I had Judy and him, so both of them sitting on the bench right now, which is not great. But yeah, I don't feel amazing about sending that 24 first, especially if my team's not in the top 3. So yeah, you can see how you want to get out from these guys for sure, unless you're just and why you want to wait until as close to the season as possible to make some of the biggest moves with these guys, because these things can happen. And with the injury, it's a hamstring injury. I mean, he's had these before. It seems like he tore it a second time, same one, where he was recovering from maybe a more minor tear, and then you tear it again. I mean, yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if he misses half the season, and he might not. He might miss 4 to 6 games, but I would not be surprised if he misses 8 games. Like, it wouldn't surprise me at all. Whether it's like comes back, plays a little bit, it's like, nah, not perfectly right. Let's, taper it off. Like, it could be one of those things all year long too. So it's gonna be tough with that. For me, I mean, we're gonna talk about it coming up, so I don't need to talk about anything else. Yeah, that's all I gotta say.
All right, another news. Breece Hall, Dalvin Cook, both will play week 1, which is sweet because we didn't really know Breece Hall's recovery timeline. We didn't really have a whole lot of there's not a ton of news about how well Breece is doing in camp, but he's not on PUP. He's not on IR. He's going to play week 1. But they did trade for Dalvin Cook, or not trade, I guess, technically. Yes, they acquired Dalvin Cook. Mm-hmm. So they're both going to play. It's going to be interesting to watch to see just kind of how that plays out. My guess would be Dalvin early on gets a little bit more work than Breece. And then, halfway through the season, Breece is just better at this point in their careers than Dalvin. So we'll see. But wheels up on Breece. Like, that's cool.
Absolutely. I think that's a pretty popular take. And I'm on board with it as well, that I think, as he gets his feet back under him, whether that takes 4, 6 games or so, I think he's going to, as long as he's healthy and that knee's good, I think he's going to be the same player. And I think we're going to see a guy who is going to out-touch Dalvin Cook just because he's that good, right? So I'm not really concerned about touches. I think that, Aaron Rodgers is always utilizes running backs very well in the passing game, everything. They only have really Garrett Wilson behind him. It looks pretty bleak unless you're a big Allen Lazard fan. Good player.
Are there any? No.
Good player, but they don't have much at tight end. CJ Uzama, those kind of guys. So if you have Breece Hall and Dalvin Cook, like, you're going to use them often, and if Breece can carve out the majority of the touches, then I think he's going to be just fine, and he could be a league winner. Everybody's been talking about it. I'm not saying anything anybody hasn't talked about, but I'm excited to see him back on the field week 1 for sure.
You just got to be patient as a Breece holder right now. He's going to be fine. It might take a little while, and I think that's probably smart on the team, to be honest. All right, next one is more nonsense than news, probably. It's just really hard to believe, but one of the Atlanta Falcons beat writers says, and I think it was in an Athletic article, but he said that Pitts could actually, he wouldn't be surprised if Pitts was 4th in pick and order for targets. Kyle Pitts. Is this even remotely believable?
I don't unless you're purposely trying to piss people. I don't understand how it could be possible. Like, I don't understand why he's not the 2nd in the pecking order. And I guess you could say Bijan should be, could be 2nd because targets are easier, but they shouldn't be designed for Bijan that often, right? Like, I do feel like Kyle Pitts and Drake London should absolutely dominate the touches. What are we doing? We're tossing Mac Hollins 90 balls this year. Like, I mean, come on now. Like, if we're passing the ball that much, it should be funneled to 3 players: Drake London, Kyle Pitts, and Bijan. I just talked about this. We're going to talk about this a little bit more. I just wrote an article. It just came out actually tonight. And I was, part of it was just talking about going into week one, talking about the year one players and what to look for, right? And kind of what you think is going to happen. It's just like you pray and hope that Arthur Smith will just do the right thing for once. Like you have these elite talents around you. Is like, when is the talent too much where you can't ignore it anymore and you just have to give them the ball, and it feels like it's now, but you just can't hold your breath because like how, like you can't, like you're just waiting for that shoe to drop and Kyle Pitts to have like a 10% target share and just be absolutely upset, like just as pissed off as you could be at the end of the year.
Yeah, we do got to remember that Kyle Pitts is also coming off an injury of his own, so maybe he starts off slow, but fourth, I don't see how he could possibly be fourth. Doesn't make sense to me.
No,
but I don't follow the team, so there's maybe there's something to think about there. I guess it'd be absolutely wild if he wasn't second on the team in targets.
Hair on my face. Yeah, I can't imagine that. That would be devastating for a lot of teams out there. So let's hope that is not the case, and that is just some beat writer trying to get some clicks.
They don't do that.
Who the hell would do that? That's an arrestable offense, I'm pretty sure.
All right, this is cool. This is a cool topic. Like, I got on the show sheet and was like, oh, I wonder what he's got down, if he's got anything. I had some other stuff, but this is better. So usually it is better. So good job. So players and narratives to watch week one. This is very topical, and I think it's important to we need to start paying attention to this. We need to start tracking this. We need to start tracking player usage, especially the new guys or newly transplanted players on different offenses, things like that. So let's hop into it. Sean Tucker. Sorry. Can he make an impact immediately and push Rachaad White? I think he can.
Yeah, absolutely. And all of these, and there's a couple more that I may not have written down, and I'll just throw them out there as we get to the end. But all of these, I wrote an article kind of touching on all this stuff, a couple paragraphs per, just my thoughts. But yeah, you can go read that. It's free, or you can listen to me on here. But yeah, so Sean Tucker, he's every bit the prospect, if not better. Actually, he is better. There's no doubt about it. I broke that down. How he is a better prospect than Rachaad White. I mean, more productive in college, better competition. And the only reason he wasn't a mid-round day 2-ish pick is because he had this rare heart condition, right? So if it wasn't for health, he's getting drafted. And even with the health, a team was like, we got to get him as soon as the draft's over. So they go, Tampa Bay snags him up. He passes the physical, or he's cleared by the doctors. And here we are now where he's the number 2 running back on the team going into week one. So I think it's very plausible that a player with that kind of profile, who's a very competent pass catcher, I thought he was one of the better in the class, very dynamic. I think he could really push Rachaad White for sure for the starting role. And Rachaad White is being drafted, I think, as kind of like a darling, a sleeper, this, that, and anything you can think of. I think he's going a little too high in all formats, but nonetheless, I'm very excited to see what Sean Tucker can do if he can kind of solidify some kind of role, not necessarily win week one, but if he can start week one solidifying some kind of role and establish, some good play, then we'll be cooking with gas.
Did you see that video by one of the player profiler guys? He was talking about Rachaad White, and he said that he's the most talented, best running back in his own class. And because of that, makes him even the best and most talented running back in this class.
Yeah.
That's
he's better than Breece Hall. Like, okay.
Get the fuck out of here.
It's nonsense, dude.
Player profile guys love the site, but that's just a crazy take. Sean Tucker is a better running back, so we'll see.
I don't even love their site. I love their data.
Yeah.
I don't consume any of their content. I don't watch whatever his name is. Is it Matt Price? Is that what his name is? No, not. Huh?
Matt Kelly, right?
Kelly, that's what it is. Thank you. Not Matt Price. Matt Price is actually a nice guy, I'm pretty sure. Matt Kelly.
Yeah, Matt Price, I think, is a
He's like a
Dynasty nerds or
DLF guy, I
something.
think,
Yeah.
maybe, or Dynasty Nerds. Yeah. But yeah, no, Matt Kelly, like, I don't consume any of his content. I don't consume any other content. But yeah, they have good data for sure. Nonetheless, that take is ridiculous. And Sean Tucker, a player on his own team that went undrafted, can push him for the starting role. I don't think he's that guy. I don't think Rashad White's that good. Okay. Anyway, so we can move on here. I think Evan Hall is another running back that we should talk about.
Yes.
The Indianapolis Colts back, who for some reason is going behind like even Sean Tucker and even like best ball redraft formats, all that stuff. And I'm trying to figure out why everyone hates Evan Hall. Like, what is it?
I don't know. We did a profile on him, I think, because was it NW Joe from the Discord?
Yeah.
My memory, man, that's sometimes it's weird. I can remember some stuff like that, but I can't remember like what I had for dinner Sunday. Whatever. But he wanted us to do a profile on Hole, and we did it pretty early. And the dude is good. He's a good running back. Jonathan Taylor's not playing for 4 weeks at least that we know of. What's he got? Deion Jackson to try to beat out?
Yeah, that's it. Deion Jackson. And what I keep hearing, I was just listening to the CBS Dynasty pod, and they were talking about how, they're waiting for Zach Moss to come back and
Moss, yeah,
and be the lead back. And I'm like, can we stop? Like, why do we not like Evan Hull? Evan Hull is like younger, more healthy, more dynamic, like Zach Moss or any of these guys. He's a dual threat. He's a dual threat back. We've talked so many times about how like he's caught 55 passes last year. He had, I think, nearly at that. Maybe he had like just under 1,000 yards last year, well over the year before that at Northwestern. Right? Northwestern? That's where he went? Yes, I'm pretty sure it is.
I don't remember anymore.
One way, yeah, right. Forget about it after prospect analysis season. One way or another, he is. I think he's a much better back than Deion Jackson, who's a fine player, but he does a lot of the things Deion Jackson does, but he's a little bit better between the tackles as well. So I'm really excited to see if he can essentially lock himself in as the running back two, if and when and if Jonathan Taylor comes back. If not, I think he possesses a three down back skill set. He also has the size, like he's 210 or 215, 5'11.
Yeah,
he's never going to be a long-term lead back. I don't believe that, but I think he can be, can have standalone value for fantasy for sure, no matter who's there. And I think he can solidify that role behind JT. So I'm excited to see if he can do it.
I agree.
All right. Next one here, we got Puka Nacua. We're hearing Sean McVay. This is the Rams wide receiver. I think, what was he, like a 5th, 6th round pick or something like that? Pretty sure day 3. He's a day 3 pick. Pretty good player. I mean, he played at Washington and BYU. Sean McVay is talking about how he's going to have an immediate impact. I mean, with Cooper Kupp injury, this is definitely timely. I'm kind of interested. Like, Puka is an athlete. The guy's 6'1", 6'2", 210, big boy, fast. You seeing him in camp. You seeing him big body. Just the guy can catch the ball and he's a player, but he does need to refine his game a bit in terms of technique. So he has a ways to go, but it looks like he's going to get some opportunity immediately here to at least prove himself. I don't know. How do you feel about Puka? Do you think he can? I know a lot of people, like a lot of sharps in the Dynasty community, are like, dude, like these guys never pan out. So like, just go get a running back or something like that. I mean, would you just as well trade him for Sean Tucker right now? Like straight up?
Yeah, probably in Dynasty. If we're talking like, in Dynasty probably. Because I think Sean Tucker has a potential to be like the starting running back for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers next year, considering how everything plays out, right? Still pie in the sky still. Like, chances are none of these guys are going to pan out. That's just the reality of it. But Puka is going to have a job right away. Like, he's competing with Van Jefferson. We know who Van Jefferson is. He is not built like Puka. And, Cooper Kupp's not there. As long as Matt Stafford and his elbow and everything else and he's back to being Matt Stafford again, Puka's going to get fed and he's going to put up points pretty early on. Once Kupp comes back, I mean, I don't know what kind of role there is in that particular offense. Another thing that, probably should mention is the tight end there. Higbee, he's going to probably ball out as long as Kupp is not able to play. So he's a pretty cheap dynasty buy. It has been for a long time now. After the huge like Higbee top 3 hype that like we totally discredited like 3 years ago.
And we
But
told you, do not go get that guy.
yeah,
Go
don't pay
get
what
him.
you were paying. I'd like to go back and see what people were paying for Higbee 3 years ago.
Too much.
Way too much. But now's a really good chance to get him because people don't really want him. But like he absolutely will ball out while Cup is gone. But yeah, back to Puka. Yeah, it wouldn't surprise me if, out of all the rookie wide receivers through 4 weeks, if he wasn't, finding himself at like top 5 of that list.
Yeah, absolutely.
As far as fantasy points go.
For sure. Look, Ben Skronik has found success in this offense
That's
before.
true.
Okay. Like,
yeah.
And that was with and without Cooper Kupp. Like he's been injured the past couple, he's been on the field. So I think Puka could be pretty successful in terms of fantasy. Now, long term, people probably right that he won't have like some big role long term. So it might be right to get out for one of these, high priority running backs, as we'll call them. Some of these guys like Sean Tucker. I'm trying to think, Kendra Miller, those kind of guys. You can kind of tear up from this fourth round pick that you have in Puka to a second round pick potentially. Maybe even just get a 2024 second. Like those are definitely things to do. Like that is great. That's a great move as a dynasty manager. I mean, that's what we tell you to do all the time. So yeah, if those opportunities are out there, definitely explore them. But I do think he's a player to watch, and he's going to have impact pretty early on here.
So next one is Michael Wilson. This one, I don't know.
You feel the same as I do. I can tell.
There's a handful of people out there that I think are smart players that have been on Michael Wilson for a little while now, just because of the body type and what he could offer to a team like Arizona. But I don't really want anything to do with Arizona right now, which saddens me because I really love like Rondell Moore. I really like Trey McBride, as everybody knows. Trey McBride's my boy.
Yeah.
But until you get a quarterback like Kyler back throwing them the ball, I just don't. I don't want a Dobbs receiver. As much as I stand for Clayton Tune, I don't know if I want a Clayton Tune receiver. Like I don't want to bet on any of it. So Michael Wilson's involvement, I don't know if I want to try, unless it's like something insane. He comes out of week 1, week 2, and he's demanding like 20% target share already. Then like, okay, we have to like take notice of that. Other than that, I don't know. I don't care.
20% target share.
You know
is
what
that
I mean?
even?
I don't know.
No. Is that even an amount that Josh Dobbs like can provide? 20%.
I don't know.
Like, can he provide a total of 100% target share to these wide receivers? We talked about this last week. Like the prospect of Josh Dobbs being the quarterback, which by some, like I don't even know what to call it. Like I don't understand what they're doing there, but they decided to start Josh Dobbs over Clayton Tune, who Josh Dobbs is going to make a mockery of what an NFL franchise should look like. I really can't wait to see this. But yeah, no, Michael Wilson, I don't quite buy it. I don't buy it with Kyler Murray. I don't buy it without him. But maybe if he carves out something here and he shows that he's an actual NFL wide receiver, you can hope, because what all it looks like to me is that they're tanking for Caleb, right? So maybe you get Caleb Williams there, and he's Caleb Williams number 1 or number 2 or something like that, and that gets you excited, and you can hope for it. But yeah, the price was nice, but at this point, I mean, he's on a team, and somebody's going to charge you way more than you need to be spending. But yeah, that foolish decision to start Josh Dobbs is going to cost a lot of people some money, I imagine.
Yeah, I think Dobbs has some history with one of the coordinators there in Arizona, so that's kind of how that happened. All right, Bigsby's involvement. This one is actually very interesting and fun because I have a little bit of money on the line on this one. If Bigsby gets more than, if Etienne doesn't get 60% of the production there out of the backfield, I have to eat broccoli, and I hate broccoli. But it's very interesting to see what happens with Tank Bigsby because he's such a good player, really good at catching the ball. I think he's kind of what people want Etienne to be. So it's going to be interesting to kind of track that. I'm pretty high on Bigsby. I will be watching this pretty closely.
Yeah. By the way, Josh Dobbs' career 58% completion percentage.
Jesus Christ.
He's so bad. He has like a total of like 80 or like 90 attempts. This is like they are tanking and they are not hiding it one bit. Yeah. So speaking of tanking, Tank Bigsby. Yeah.
Tank Bigsby, yes. Oh man, I missed that. Damn.
Professional transition right there. Yeah, I think Tank Bigsby is going to carve out a decent role here. I mean, I was early in the offseason talking about trade Etienne for Gibbs. I was big on that kind of train. Just get out. Trade Etienne for Gibbs. Not necessarily like Etienne cannot score you fantasy points and he is trash. Like, I think Etienne's a great player. He's on a team that it's unlikely he's going to receive the amount of targets you need to kind of get to that upper echelon of running backs. But he was priced around that area, still kind of priced within, I think, the top 7-ish area. I could actually tell you right now. Running back 8. So, I think he's capped a little bit because there's so many targets to go around on this team. They're going to want to kind of get the ball downfield a little bit. They want him to be explosive on the ground. And then they're going to utilize Tank Bigsby as well. So he's not going to get all of the touches. I find, in the article I was talking a little bit about, I find it hard to believe that he's going to get anywhere near 60% of the running back touches. Really, like last year, he didn't, like he had, I think, 51% or like maybe even 49% of the rushing attempts, just the rushing attempts.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think he can really go up from there with Tank Bigsby in town. Honestly, like, why would they want to? I think they want him to be more efficient on less touches, to be quite honest, on the ground. And kind of, I just don't see how his touches get where we want them to be with Tank Bigsby. Maybe I'm overestimating how much they're going to use Bigsby, but I don't see it with that team. I don't quite see it this year.
Awesome. All right. Who will the Bengals wide receiver 4, wide receiver 3 next year potentially be? I guess that's interesting to talk about, just that whole offense. I'm sure they could figure out a way to keep Chase and Higgins as wide receiver 1, wide receiver 2. Like, they can make it happen. Tyler Boyd likely won't be around. But there's still some value in rostering that third wide receiver, the way that they pass and how efficient Joe Burrow is. There's plenty of weeks where we've had Tyler Boyd in our lineups and weren't mad about it, right? So many.
Trent Irwin. You remember that little guy, the little white guy, long hair, scoring 2 or 3 touchdowns in the playoffs. Like, it could be, yeah.
So it'll be interesting, and hopefully your boy Charlie Jones makes the cut. That would feel good. That'd feel good for the pod.
Absolutely would. Yeah, definitely for our prospect analysis portion of the season and our model there. Yeah, they also have Andre Iosiva. I don't know how you say this guy's name. I forgot. But Charlie Jones and this other guy, Andre, I'll call him. Like I know him by like I know him personally, talking about him first name, but he's a much more athletic player, just naturally athletic than Charlie Jones. I think he, has more success from that than any kind of technique, where Charlie Jones is winning off of really good route running. He has a pretty strong route tree. And then in his final season, just dominated his competition with 110 catches, 1,300 yards, and like double-digit touchdowns. And this other player we're talking about never did that. Now, in the NFL, that athleticism can shine sometimes, but at a camp, you're hearing that Charlie Jones is just not dropping a single pass, and he's doing everything right. So I think that Jones probably is going to edge it out long term. I think that, and that's just something I'm going to be looking at all season long, because in preseason, you saw some from both guys. So, one of these guys is going to, kind of take the lead and knock the other one off. So I'm going to be watching for who that is.
Same. Next one, can Marvin Mims get going early? I don't see why not. There's the opportunity there. They got a couple good tight ends. Cortland Sutton there. Judy out. That's kind of, I don't see why not. He has the opportunity. He's a good player. Let's put it that way first. Like, Marvin Mims is a good wide receiver. Russell Wilson is a good quarterback, regardless of what we saw last year. Also, he's kind of jacked now. Have you seen like recent pictures of him?
Yeah, yeah.
Bro, slimmed down. Like he looks ready.
He was on the
Sean
Tua
Payton.
diet. On the Tua diet.
Sean Payton is a hell of a head coach. No, we haven't seen him like be hell of a head coach for a year or two, but he absolutely is. I think this Broncos team is going to be a lot better than a lot of people want to think, and Marvin Mims absolutely will have a chance. The way that Judy has gone, his career has gone so far. There's a chance there's not a whole lot of longevity there with the team in the first place. Could a guy like Marvin Mims actually just end up being the wide receiver 2, and then maybe even potentially more when Cortland Sutton's gone, because he's only got a couple more years there probably left as he's getting up there in age. But yeah, I think early on Marvin Mims will again, like we were talking about with Puka, I think there's a chance Marvin Mims could be in that top 5 or 6 in fantasy points scored out of the rookie wide receivers.
Yeah, and if he proves himself enough when Judy does come back, he might push Cortland Sutton out of his spot. You know what I mean?
Sure.
Like if he proves good enough in 2 wide receiver sets, I think that can happen. And I think a lot of people don't realize like how explosive he is. Okay, in college, in his last year, his final year at Oklahoma. Now I'm reading right out of the article here. He was wildly efficient downfield in his final season, improving as much with 20.1 yards per reception. 20.1 yards per reception on 54 targets for 1,000 or 54 receptions for 1,083 yards.
Holy crap.
Yeah, that's how you get a 20.1 target share or 20.1 yards per reception on a like 54 targets is a lot to have a 20.1 yards per reception, but it's not a lot to have 1,000 yards. It's like it's a weird thing to think about. So this kid is dynamic. Like Russell Wilson can utilize him down the field. Similarly, a lot of people have said this to Tyler Lockett. And so I think we can see, Sean Payton. It is, yeah, Sean Payton. Mm-hmm. I think we can see him and Russell Wilson, wanting to scheme some of that up. So yeah, I'm very excited to see if he can get going early in that way.
God, I hope I said Sean Payton, not Sean McVay earlier. But now you got me thinking. I think I did.
It'll be all right.
You could just go and edit and I'll say the word Sean McVay, and then you could just take out the part where,
There you go.
Moving on. All right, this one's fun. What Chiefs wide receiver stands out? So, you're not supposed to invest in wide receivers at face plant, but we're all supposed to give wide receivers a couple of years to break out. So, like, where do you go? And this is talking about my boy Sky Moore, who I legitimately think will be the wide receiver 1 on this team. Once Kelsey comes back, obviously he's not going to be number 1 in targets, but I'm excited about Sky Moore. I think he's considerably more talented than Kadarius Toney. I know we have MVS there, and actually MVS will probably early on probably see a little bit more than Sky, but I'm excited to see what happens with Sky here. He finally gets the opportunity. Kelsey's out on the field for at least this 1 week, and let's see what could happen.
Yeah, I mean, the real answer for a contender, if you're, we're redraft season here, it's MVS at cost.
Yeah.
Marcus.
I got him for a 4th.
He is so cheap, and he's going in as the pseudo wide receiver 1. He's playing that role, and if he's going to be downfield with Pat Mahomes, it's just you want that player on your team for sure. But long term, we're talking here, right? We really are looking at Rashee Rice, Kadarius Toney, and Sky Moore. Those 3 are the guys who I think are really contending. I mean, I guess Richie James could be a guy, and Justin Ross could be a guy too. Justin Ross is doing some things, but his health is a serious concern, and it doesn't seem like they want to risk him being on the field like all the time. I don't really know what it is, because every time you see him in camp, he seems great. But I think, like I said, those are the top 3. So I do agree with Uriah that Sky Moore kind of fits the role that they want right now for Patrick Mahomes. He hasn't, although he throws the ball downfield still, his ADOT, his air yards per attempt have come down just a tad the past 2 years, and I think he's perfectly fine with dumping the ball off, in a shorter area, more intermediate area. And I think that's kind of where Sky Moore will have the most success and is best fit. I don't think Rashee Rice has the hands to kind of do the Marquez Valdez-Scantling thing. MVS barely has the hands to do it, but Rashee Rice is worse. So, Kadarius Toney might be more explosive, but just can't stay on the field. So if I had to put my money on somebody, it's Sky Moore. But this is one this year I think we're going to actually figure out, like, if one of these guys can be a long-term fit for this team. And you hope it's Sky Moore. I think we do, at least on this pod.
Yes, I do. Is Kendre Miller legit?
I mean, we at least get to find out, I think, with Alvin Kamara out.
Yeah.
All he has to do is beat out Jamal Williams, right? That's a good question. That's not saying that, like, he beats him out and he's the running back 1. That's saying, he beats him out and now he's the running back 2 on an offense where, their star running back for years is likely out in the next year or 2, but probably next year. So it's like, can you set yourself up to kind of be, the successor? And that's what we're looking to see, I think. And that's what we get to kind of analyze over the first 3 weeks it is that Alvin Kamara is out, is can Kendre Miller set himself apart? Like, can this guy, he's catching passes down the sideline in preseason. Is that just you're playing against the third string guys, or is that, something that we're going to see manifest itself on the field with the starting group with Derek Carr? Are we going to see this guy actually be explosive, run the ball, catch the ball, be something that, we've kind of been told by some analysts that we don't necessarily agree with that he is. So I'm interested to see that, because that catch down the sideline definitely made me question. I talked about last week, like, okay, the guy could probably catch the ball. So, like, let's see if he can be more than what I think he is.
And last one, just in general. So these are the highest drafted wide receivers in our rookie drafts. We have Addison, Flowers, Quentin Johnson, and JSN. Who takes the crown at the end of the year? Which one of these wide receivers finishes the year with most fantasy points per game?
Yeah, I'm not going to lie. I didn't actually do this one in the article because, like, I feel like it's been talked about so much, but I figure it's fine to talk about on here because we can be a little bit more concise, even though now I'm just rambling. But I think JSN, he's healthy. He's going to play week 1. We just got the news about that. JSN's by far the best player out of this group, hands down. And I think that it's going to be impossible to keep him off the field, impossible not to get the ball in his hands. And I think by the end of the year, he's going to finish with the most points per game and probably have surpassed somebody for a role on that team for the wide receiver 1 or 2.
You're probably right. But I'm gonna put my I'm gonna speak my truth, and my truth is that Quentin Johnson is the best wide receiver in this class, and I think it will be him who finishes the season with the most fantasy points per game. I really like Addison. I'm not sure. Yeah. I just think there's been pretty quiet with Addison, so maybe the hype's not seeping in to like change my mind on him. I liked Quentin Johnson better as a prospect anyway. And then Flowers does have a legitimate chance to be one of those, top 3 at the end of the season rookie wide receivers. But at the end of the day, you're probably right. Even like the local, I'm up here in Seattle now. Most of the local beat writers are really, really high on JSN. The fact that he came back from his wrist surgery and was out there practicing, everybody says he has a really good head. His, head's in the game. People like to be around him, and he is a good thing in the locker room. There's a very good chance that, you didn't name him specifically, but at the end of the season, I could see him earning targets at a higher clip than Tyler Lockett.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you're
absolutely.
probably right.
Absolutely. I agree with that. Yeah. So I think I had a couple more in the article, but if you guys want to read that, it's free. Like I said, it's out there on dynastyfootballfactory.com. We'll post it from the Dynasty Underdog Twitter account and yada, 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 yada. Hope you enjoyed.
Free content. Love it.
Absolutely. Okay, so this next one here, we gave a lot of advice this offseason kind of talking about avoiding running backs and specifically avoiding kind of going out and trading 4 running backs early in the offseason when you don't know exactly what's going to happen. And, we've had a couple injuries. We've had, some situations clear up with like Dalvin Cook, joining the Jets. We still have a couple out there with, JT. Obviously, the uncertainty remains. Kareem Hunt not signed. Leonard Fournette's another one who is still out there as well. So those eventually will clear up. But I figured it was a good time since we're heading into the season, even as dynasty managers. Are there any running backs kind of we're looking at now, point scoring season, to go after, right? Again, circumstances clear up. I think everything has kind of solidified itself. We know everybody's going to be. Who are some guys you're looking at?
I keep doing that. For me,
it's a ritual. It's a ritual out here. Tradition.
It's all good. For me, one of them, a big one, is Javonte. We've talked about him a lot. We talked about him all through camp, and I kept saying, man, they're saying he's going to be ready. They're saying he's going to be ready. They're saying he's going to be ready. He looks pretty decent. He doesn't go on pup at all during training camp. And he's the one that completely ripped all his stuff in his knee. Just the worst case scenario. And by all accounts, he's actually healthier and more ready than Breece Hall, who's wasn't nearly as bad. So Javonte's been one of those guys that I've been really worried about moving off of or acquiring. But now I feel like I have a little more clarity what his role will be. So Javonte is a guy I'm perfectly happy with trying to go out and acquire. And then also I think his price is going to come up to a point where if you're worried about something like this happening, or you've been trying to get off of him but didn't want to pay or sell him at a discount because he was unhealthy, I think this gives you an opportunity both ways. Once we see him play in week 1, you can kind of move the direction that you want to move with Javonte. Either go out and get him, or go ahead and you could probably sell him for what he's worth now. So,
Quentin Johnston or Javonte Williams? I'm gonna make you do it.
Do it. QJ.
Yeah, so he's going just ahead of him. He's going 4 spots ahead of Javonte in per ADP, per ADP.
Okay.
So I think a guy I'd want to move for him is like a Michael Pittman. You could probably move over to Javonte from Derrick Henry with the right situation. If you're not even if you're competitive, I guess you could do that. But those are, Brandon Ayuk. It depends on how you feel about that. So George Pickens for Javonte. Now that's one right there that I might actually explore. I don't know, man. I'm still concerned about Javonte. I really don't like buying running backs with knee injuries, but yeah, the news is definitely encouraging coming out. But I like that one. Things are clearing up, and like I said, news is encouraging. So that's a good one for sure. And he's not the most expensive. Okay, so one that I have, which is kind of a similar type players in a similar range, but a little bit cheaper, J.K. Dobbins. I've been on this guy all offseason, but I've also just been on the entire Ravens offense all offseason. I'm not shying away. I love Mark Andrews. I mean, I love Zay Flowers. I love Lamar Jackson. Give me it all. And J.K. Dobbins sits there in the backfield with absolutely no competition to speak of. Okay, the guy, he might not get 50 targets, but if there are 35 running back targets on the team, he's getting 35 of them, or he's at least getting 30 of them. You know what I mean? And he's going to get just about every quality running back touch, provided he's healthy. Another year off of the injury, and he was super efficient even with the injury. I mean, this guy has been one of the most efficient running backs in the league. So going around running back 18, 605. Around George, please move George Kittle for him in a second. He's going right next to him in ADP. Javonte's going earlier than him, and is just coming off of the injury. I don't understand why J.K. Dobbins is going this late. You know what I mean? Just that right there tells you how valuable J.K. Dobbins can be if this offense that he's in, which is supposed to be high flying and dynamic, is what it is. So. I love J.K. Dobbins. I think this is a guy where the situation is cleared up. He's no longer holding out or whatever. He's back practice. He's back with the team. Everything's cleared up and he's there, but his ADP and everything is still super low.
I 100% would move Javonte for Dobbins.
Yeah, and you can do that. You could probably get plus in a lot of situations because of the age thing and because people don't think that he's going to catch passes in Baltimore.
Interesting. Another one that I had was Miles Sanders, just because, I mean, we could talk about this earlier. It mostly has to do anything with health or that they were reaching out to other free agent running backs. But Miles Sanders is, out of most of these guys, like we're talking about like workhorse or the amount of like work they're going to get. I think Sanders is going to be very, very high up on that list. In an offense that I think is going to be even better than it was last year. And there's nobody else really to compete with him. I'm not even a Miles Sanders guy. I never really have been. But seeing where he is, what opportunity he's going to have, he's probably going to be like the guy there. There's nothing else really standing in the way.
Yeah, I agree. And volume is obviously king for running backs. You still have to be talented. I think the argument for Dobbins is more than just that, because I think he's been highly efficient. He's really, really good player, always been a good rusher. I think there's more questions about Miles Sanders from that perspective. Like, is he really in a high quality runner per touch on like every touch? Like, he hasn't been, and he's definitely not been a good pass catcher ever in his NFL career. And even saying that, I spoke on this podcast 2 weeks ago, I think, where I was talking about, doing the projections, and I couldn't find a way not to give him an ungodly amount of touches, like an outlandish amount. And I'm just like, all right, like he has to be good. Like I can't figure out a way he's not good. So I'm kind of with you on this one. I don't like being with you on this one though. So I'm concerned about it. I'm very concerned about this take, even though I kind of agree with it as we sit here on September 6th.
Yeah.
Okay, Miles Sanders, huh? Okay, Khalil Herbert. I'm throwing out Khalil Herbert. Khalil Herbert is an interesting one for me. I don't love him as a long-term player, like a 3-year player, I'll say, but I do like him as like a 1-2 year player, and he's got an ADP right now of running back 40 in the 12th round. People have soured on him a bit as they've heard more about Roschon Johnson, and I don't know if that is going to have as much of an impact. I don't know. I guess I'm willing to take the bet at that low of a price that Roschon Johnson doesn't have that much of an impact, and that Khalil Herbert has been really efficient, right? And that he's going to continue to be that way, and he's going to get a lot of opportunities on the ground. So I think with the price there, in terms of like going out and getting a running back that's going to score me points on my team, I think that he is probably one of the cheaper options right now that could provide you that could provide you running back 2 production, regularly.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not sure I agree with the take. I believe that I feel like Roschon's going to end up showing that he's the better running back at some point in this year, but I think it's one of those things you want to keep an eye on, is the Khalil Herbert Roschon thing. I want that running back that's going to be getting the majority of the carries on that team, whichever one it happens to be. And I believe that Roschon could probably end up being that guy later on, but we'll see. And that's kind of what's fun about this whole discussion. It's just like, let's see what happens with these guys.
This is one that should have been in our last section.
Yeah.
So this is a good crossover piece. Yeah. No, I like Roschon Johnson a lot too. I guess the way I kind of see it is I see this offense working, but being more run heavy, a little bit like Seattle, in that they're going to have this 1-2 punch of guys where Roschon is a little bit more well-rounded, right? He has a bit safer floor and also has, some touchdown upside, but Khalil Herbert's the guy who's going to break a 60-yard touchdown for you, like Ken Walker kind of can. You know what I mean? So in that way, while he's going as running back 40, I think it makes sense for a contender that, if you have some expendable pieces, you put together a package, go get Khalil Herbert if you need a running back right now. You have too many wide receivers, whatever it is. I think there's some opportunity there just with his price that you can have like an explosive player in your flex spot. That's just a kind of, one of those pieces I think that can help you produce a little bit. And I'm always looking for the cheaper side of things. Honestly, who I should have put on this list is Breece Hall, because let's see, where is he in Dynasty right now. He's running back 3. Never mind. I thought people soured on him because he's going really low in redraft leagues and best ball and stuff. So that is not. People the redraft people should be listening to the Dynasty people more on this one. I feel like because I think he's gonna be great.
Hey, we can learn a lot from each other.
We can, right?
Why are the clocks so damn fast in redraft? That's what I want to know.
Oh my goodness. Well, it's so funny. I was talking to Jake about this weekend. I was texting back and forth with him. And we were doing obviously the redraft leagues, and it's like a 30-second or 1 minute 30 clock. And you're like high anxiety, high stress. It's like, can I just like chill out and make my pick, man? Like, can I like take a second to look at like, is there a potential like stack, a week 17 correlation possibility that makes sense with a good player? No, I gotta freak out and fucking pick. Like what? Why? Like why am I freaking out to make a pick? I don't. It's mind bending. I don't know. It's mind bending. I don't understand why they make us do it that way.
Yeah, I had my like one and only like real like work home league drafts on Monday, and twice during the draft, like I had somebody I queued up on my list, you know. I'm like, oh, I'm going to go snag him. And I type his name into the app and it doesn't pop up. I'm like, what the hell? So then I have to go to the board and I see that he was drafted 2 rounds ago and I just didn't mark him down. And now I have like 15 seconds to like grab somebody. And I'm like, shit. But it turned out okay. But I was like, man, this is maybe a little too fast. Like, give me like 3 minutes. Okay. Give me 3 minutes.
I think it should just be I think almost every draft, especially if you have everybody there at the same time, should be no clock. And the commissioner should just be on top of it and should just be pinging them. Make your pick, make your pick, make your pick. And everybody will get it done, dude. Like, that's just how it should be. As long as everybody agreed to be there at the same time, you can do it that way for sure. You definitely can. Like, it's once you go slow, man, you can't go back. I don't understand.
High anxiety. Like, I've never felt that way during a draft in like years, it seems like. But
yeah, because like we do nice, like we're like relax, get some rest, wake up, make your pick.
Jesus, you know, maybe at lunch, make another pick. It's all good.
Killing me, Smalls, and it just elongates the fun too. You know, it doesn't have to end today.
Yeah.
We could be drafting for days. Like I don't understand.
It's like they want to wait until like the day before the game starts.
Oh yeah.
But then they want to have the draft done in like 20 minutes. You're like, come on.
Yeah. They want to draft like an hour before kickoff and do it, like you said, in 30 minutes. Like, I'm ready. Let's go. Like a crackhead. I don't understand it. But anyway, okay. And meanwhile, I'm over here like looking for a draft. Where's the draft? All right. So my last one here, I think I put this one. I don't know if you did, but I agree with you if you put it. David Montgomery. He's my other buy. He's just cheap enough where I'm willing to go get him because I think I'm getting – look, this is running back 32, right? If I'm talking about Khalil Herbert, running back 40, you're getting Montgomery like about 2 rounds earlier, which isn't much, around the Mike Williams range, around the Rashee Rice range, the Evan Ingram range, the A.J. Dillon, James Conner. Like, give me David Montgomery. That's a solid NFL running back on a team where they want to utilize the running backs at a high clip. And he's not Jahmyr Gibbs, don't get me wrong, but he is a workhorse type back. He's a 3-down back. He can catch passes. He can do that. And he's going to score touchdowns. Very cheap very, very cheap option to put in your running back 2 in your flex spots if you play with a lot of flex spots. Like I love Dave Montgomery. I think that he's very acquirable. So these are the kind of running backs I'm going after now. He's healthy on a team that wants to utilize him. Potential to become a running back 1 with an injury. Yeah, like easy money right there.
Easy money. It's a great list. And, you know, these are guys that we go out and get now that we kind of know, not say for sure, but we have a really, really, really good idea of their situation now. There's not a whole lot of questions in the air about their usage.
Absolutely. Awesome. Okay, we got one last bit here, and we'll get out of here. I just wanted to mention again, we've been talking a lot in the Discord. The Discord's been great, by the way. Shout out Ethan, who has been in there asking a ton of questions about his teams. And honestly, like, it's been really, really fun helping him because we have helped him build an absolute juggernaut. And I remember he was asking us about this team last year, and tons of credit to him because he did a lot of the work, obviously. But I remember him coming in last year and trying to get Bijan Robinson and really trying to get all this stuff done. He missed out on the 101 by 1 pick, wasn't able to get Robinson. He got Gibbs, still has a really stacked team. And then he comes back in the chat working his league, and he ends up maneuvering a deal for Bijan Robinson. So just from the aspect of like team building and like asking us questions and using the Discord and the resource, like I think it's helped him a lot, and it's been really cool to see that. But also good content, and I think it's really good to mention a big part of his strategy has been consolidation. He was able to acquire a lot of picks in his kind of search or his journey to be competitive, right? He was able to acquire a lot of picks and kind of get himself into this place. And he had kind of a surplus of wide receiver talent on his team, right? And like I said, he wants Bijan Robinson. He kind of really just needs to solidify that running back spot, and he's good to go. So he's asking us like how he can do this, right? And obviously he doesn't want to give up high-end assets if you can, but you're going after Bijan Robinson, so you got to kind of give up some stuff here, right? So JSN, it's just good to kind of explain, I think, some of the details behind it because it makes sense in the end. But JSN was his wide receiver like 5, right? Mm-hmm. And at that point, like as good as JSN is, he's kind of expendable on your team, right? Like I'm trying to think. Oh man, there's an economics term for this that I talked about recently. It's going to drive me crazy not thinking of it right now. But this happens a lot where you have a surplus of assets that somebody else can use, and they have an asset that your team can use, right? And from that perspective, JSN kind of becomes expendable. And that's what I think we ended up kind of explaining to him. And he already understands consolidation pretty well. I think he did this before with another trade. And that's why I wanted to bring it up, because having a lot of good assets on your team is great, but having a few of the best assets is way better. And that's what you want. Like having depth doesn't really matter that often, especially when you can't use it, right? And it's good, obviously, if injuries happen, sure. But I'd rather have the best players. So what he did here, and what I think is an interesting trade to just think about, is he packaged a lot of high-end assets and went and got Bijan Robinson. JSN, a 24 late first, and a 24 top 5 first. How do you feel about that trade?
It's a lot for a running back, but Bijan is as advertised, which he probably will be, especially in that offense. And looking at his roster, he has like AJ, what is it? Jamar Chase, AJ, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Devontae Smith, DK Metcalf as his like 4th wide receiver. Yeah, JSN, like, where are you going to make room for him? His other guys that he has in his flex, he has like Kenneth Walker. Are you going to put JSN over to Kenneth Walker? Probably not. So, as you alluded to, the fact that like even though he is a really high-end player and a really nice dynasty piece, it's one that is like for his team expendable. And then you're throwing in a couple mid to late firsts next year for Bijan. I think that's probably the going price, and I think it's going to work out really, really well for him. I think it's great. This is a hard trade to make because you don't want to give up so much for one player, especially when it comes with like a nice rookie stud like JSN. But I don't think there's any other way. I don't think there's any other way you could get Bijan other than paying up for something like that. I am kind of interested in the team that had Bijan because they obviously had the 101, so you assume their team was either very, very unlucky or rebuilding or just not good. So why they would give up Bijan just to get some more firsts for next year, I don't know. That's not something I would preach to do. But for him, I like this trade. It's a hard trade to make, but I think it's the right thing to do.
Yep, I agree. And the economic term I was trying to think of was comparative advantage, which is being able to produce more of a product in another country. Therefore, that becomes valuable to that other country, and a product they have that you can produce. Maybe it's a similar. I would almost consider a comparative advantage trading in a way, right? Where it's you have more assets that somebody wants, and they have an asset that you need. Kind of that deal is kind of what happened here. And while I do think he's giving up a little bit more than you'd like, this is how you have to do it Meanwhile, he still has like a top 3 pick in the bag and a star-studded team. So at some point, like, this is point scoring season. Bijan is the running back 1 in Dynasty. If you have an opportunity to go get him and you're competing, you give up that future value and you go for it, man. Like, that's what you do. We're not talking about a guy who's going to fall off next year unless he broke his leg or something, you know? Like, that's not – and even then – Breece Hall's running back 3. So the fall is not far. Like, it's just I do think it's a really good example of consolidating assets, even good ones, and how consolidating even good assets is kind of the best move to make, right? Is in your best interest most of the time. Now, if you don't have a team that's ready to compete, I would not say consolidate those assets into one. That doesn't make sense. This is more for a team that is well-rounded, set up, where you're trying to essentially make your starting lineup flawless in a way, which it'll never be. There'll always be faults. Like, you can only increase your percentage chance of winning so much, but you're still attempting to do so. And I think that if you can get to a place where you have extra assets that you can kind of turn into stud point producers on your team, that's what you want to do as much as possible, as long as you're not giving up too much of that value, too much of those assets that you don't have anything for yourself in the future. Ethan, our friend Ethan here, has been able to maneuver his league so that he maintains a first-round pick almost every time going in to the next year, if not multiple, and he has a competitive team. That is the place to be. That's where you want to get yourself.
Yeah. He's done pretty good with that team.
Absolutely. Awesome. Hop in the Discord, guys. This is the kind of stuff that goes on in there. And it's really just chatting about Dynasty 24/7. But we love doing this. We love Dynasty, and I think we know what we're doing. So yeah, join us so we can help you out. It's fun.
Anything else you want to talk about?
No, man. Go check out my free article on dynastyfootballfactory.com. Enjoy the start to the season. This weekend's going to be a blast. I'm stoked.
Awesome. All right, check us out on Spotify. Follow us on Twitter at Dynasty Underdog, at Uriah Dawkins, at WBMDFF. Again, join our Discord. Check us out on YouTube if that's your thing. Most importantly, good luck this week. Good luck this season. Reach out to us if you need any advice, and have a good night.
Peace out, fam.
Peace out.